Bah! Destroy the like button's homeworld and let it train to seek revenge for the next 35 years. When it finally tracks you down and vows to put an end to your tyranny once and for all, obliterate it slowly with a death ball so it realizes it never stood a chance from the beginning. Hello there, dear readers. It's me, Boo. Oh? You didn't expect I would speak with you directly, did you? Your narrator? Oh, you mustn't worry about him. He's merely, sleeping. I just borrowed his space for a moment. But I think he would like you to look for Master Roshi's stone hidden somewhere in today's video, and to timestamp it in the comments if you want a shout out in the next, such as Dragon KZX did a few days ago. You know, being the single most incredible living thing in existence can actually get a bit boring, so occasionally I break the fourth wall for entertainment purposes. Don't get used to it though. I'll return your narrator shortly. No doubt he'll faithfully delve into the details of my legendary exploits, a task worthy of laud and honor. I assure you, you will be graced by my own adventure. Everything I accomplished, all I experienced, those I saved and pulverized, which all transpired in my own fourth universe. That is to say, we'll be covering the highlights more or less. My own autobiography would span countless centuries, and though I have the skill, I am certainly not patient enough to bother with it. I'm sure you understand. I've evolved quite a bit from that being you knew on that little blue planet, and though the story was written and translated at the hands of true artists, I would know. I've absorbed them. You'll see my great transcendence into the being you have come to know and love. As long as I have you, let me briefly exposit a few tidbits about myself before we dive headlong into one of my fabulous adventures. I find it better to introduce a new story with clear, concise appendix on its major protagonist. I also apologize in advance for the metamorphosis of my transcriptio-verbal expressions, as I did absorb quite a few highly educated and pretentious minds, and each altered the way I communicate in some degree. But I assure you, the story will return to its delectable style to which you are accustomed. Let's begin then. My name is Boo. Years ago, my name was Majin Buu. I was labeled thusly by a sorcerer named Bibidi, who lived millions of years ago. I don't know what it means exactly, but apart from the Majin aspect, which to me is nothing more than a discarded title of my former slavery, I've always liked the sound of my name. Boo. 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 It just kind of rolls off the tongue, no? Anyway, the offspring of that wizard, Babidi, told me his father had created me. All I know is, before reaching my perfection on Earth via many absorptions, I was nothing but a fat, fluffy balloon who followed that sorcerer's orders, so long as he continued stuffing me with cake, of course. Before that, I shudder even more, as I was a mindless child whose only thoughts were to destroy everything in sight. What an immeasurable idiocy, to deploy carnage when there is so much to do, to have fun and enjoy life. That, and to become the most extraordinary fighter. I was destined to possess a greater power than any beings in the universe. And yet, my beginnings were ultimately a failure. I was but an irritating and manipulated kid. My time spent as a hot air balloon, still with barely any intelligence, was hardly better. Babidi barking his doltish orders at me. Fortunately, I soon met with the Earthlings and the Saiyans, and my life took on a whole new meaning. In the first few chapters of my story, you'll be able to briefly live out my experience as that brainless child, my conquest of space and war against the Kaioshins, all under the orders of that vermin Bibidi. And afterwards, my imprisonment on the small water world of so many species of life. So a recap of sorts, lived from my point of view, to immerse you and provide proper context of my true ascension. I hope to continue entertaining you with my mischief and sense of humor. Don't forget to leave nice comments, as I will even consider absorbing those who write them, while the haters and trolls will be turned into morsels to snack on. So hey, happy trails.
Hentai tentacles! 5 million years before the story we know. In an arid desert world, in a dark corner of the universe, a small being moved with some difficulty. A storm was looming on the horizon, spinning the red grains up in a powerful gust across the surface of the planet. The dark sky was illuminated by distant flashes of lightning, the fury of thunderous strikes booming like an approaching army. It was one of the most chaotic and reclusive worlds in the known universe. Travelers, even explorers, avoided it at all costs, while the worst of criminals were abandoned there in that literal hell. The short creature moved for a long time, enveloped by a large cloth, surrounded by an energy barrier. At last, he reached a wide circular crevice, the bottom of which was not even visible. He had arrived. The evil aura emanating from this gulf was palpable to him, but only a great follower of the mystic arts, such as himself, could have detected such a dark and malicious nexus. As he searched the area for forbidden spells, every indication confirmed this was indeed the place he had detected from his ship. The little being raised his arm.
"We're here, slaves! Get to work! Find me all you can!"
Yes, Master Bibbidi!
Dozens of his servants appeared, positioned around the crevasse. They clung to the ledge and began descending along the walls. The wizard named Bibbidi snorted. This world has been an ideal place to bolster his ranks with the most evil and now loyal of soldiers. The worst of murderers and fiends, each consumed by darkness. They were easily appointed as his servants. For several hours, the pawns descended, penetrating into the caverns below. Some died, crushed by huge rocks. The planet's cataclysmic elements were a threat even below its surface. Bibbidi, capable of flying, had placed himself in a safe corner, an area of personal protection while he observed his pawns through his crystal ball, until he heard what he so desired.
Master! I found something! It's enormous! It's… ah!
The wizard shivered with satisfaction.
"Finally! Pa-pa-pa!"
Incanting a teleportation spell, he immediately joined his soldier at the bottom of a long, rocky path. The soldier had been greatly injured, a boulder having fallen and crushed him, though Bibbidi cared not, his attention entirely fixed on a grimoire with a dark cover, placed prominently on a bone pedestal. There was no doubt the black magic present in this ravine and beyond came from this mysterious book. Bobbidi saw it well, the work of a powerful wizard, probably millennia, even millions of years before him. The aura emanating from it was thick, enveloping the room entirely. Bibbidi approached, suspicious. The rock that had crushed his servant had not been a matter of chance. The cavern was riddled with protective spells, preventing anyone from attempting to seize the book. But of what he could discern, it wouldn't be a particularly complicated spell to undo. It was strong, yes, but he could visibly see the magical bindings, and over time, they had become quite fragile. Even the greatest of enchantments couldn't hold up forever. Extending his arms in front of him, he conjured a powerful curse that struck the entire cave. The soldier, still moaning on the ground in pain, was instantly annihilated, as well as the entrapments in the room. Bibbidi fell to his knees, exhausted. Not only had casting the spell drained him, but even he hadn't been immune to the effects of the enchantment. He glanced towards the pedestal, the magical shell encasing it seeming to crackle a bit at a time, until finally it shattered. It took a moment for the wizard to get back up, but as he slowly approached the book, his intrigue and excitement only grew. The first page opened with a snap. Although ancient, its letters remained unfaded. It was a text written by wizards of old, from times unknown, a collection of forbidden knowledge that would be immensely useful. While many of his own spells were far more powerful, the various experiments and inclinations written down would certainly round out his abilities. One page in particular caught his attention. Those few paragraphs, surrounded by iconic diagrams, dispensed a sure method for condensing the evil present in living things. With it, he could animate objects or entities and unleash them afterwards. Bibbidi thought for a moment, before being overcome with a wicked grin. He could really do something interesting using this spell. Combined with his own archaic specialties, he could finally achieve his ultimate ends, the creation of his ideal perfect slave, his Majin. A few months later, on a different world, the wizard was hard at work, hidden away underground in a subway-like catacomb, its dusty halls lit by flickering violet torches. Tall shelves were stuffed with neglected texts, cobweb-covered scrolls, and the occasional flask containing viscous green liquids. The stones making up the walls were individually carved and polished, his hideout cleverly hidden away from the prying Kais. He had been operating out of this particular haunt for years, conducting scientific and magical experiments of the forbidden nature. Rather impressive was the technology he acquired for his lab, admittedly stolen from various worlds and modified by dark magic. The wizard's current venture had him busy on a table studying a large sheet of papyrus, which contained a circle with incantations and symbols drawn all around. He studied the document carefully, being sure not to miss anything, and once finished, sighed deeply. That was the last of the ancient texts in his library. He had contemplated and tirelessly studied each and every one of them. Now he was ready to proceed with the creation of an ultimate ritual, the culmination of all of his studies, and the birth of the most terrible being. But what could that be?
As if it isn't obvious.